In addition to the managers that are parked here in the sidebar, the file, layer, mask, and color managers, SeaDAS has a few more managers to work with. In the vector menu, you can see the GCP or ground control point manager, which I'm not going to cover in this video, but I am going to talk about the pin manager. This allows you to place point location markers in your image, either as a annotation feature to simply highlight them as graphically, but you can also use these to actually interrogate your file for data values at particular locations. You might use pins because you have sampled data at a particular GPS location, or you've got a known buoy location, that kind of thing. Whole variety of applications for the pin manager. So when I click that, notice, and up here, this double pin tool is the toolbar equivalent of that menu. I get this floating window here for the pin manager. Now, you'll probably get it floating by default to begin with, but if you right click on its title, you'll get a little pop-up menu that if you make sure this is enabled, the dockable, and then uncheck floating, it will dock that window down here at the bottom of the user interface, allow you to view and work with your data and see your pin information. In the pin manager window, you have a variety of tools associated with it, some of which are disabled because there's no data in the pin manager yet, and none of it's highlighted. But this first one, you hover over it, you get the tooltip, create and add new pin. If we click that, we get this small window which allows us to associate a name with the pin, a visible label with the pin. Those are not the same thing. One is a name for meaning and one is a label for display, and its associated latitude and longitude position. You can actually work in pixel locations if that's useful. Let's just use these defaults, but put it somewhere we might see on the image. I'll just kind of arbitrarily pick 28 degrees north and 90 degrees west. Click that, and lo and behold, I get this little pin displayed. One thing to notice as I zoom in, the pin display, it's displayed as a push pin with a label, is kind of invariant to the zoom, so it doesn't get larger as I zoom in and smaller as I zoom out, and that can play into how you're going to portray these in your final image, but just be aware of that. Now, you'll notice that created a new row in the pin manager, and in large part this is a lot like a spreadsheet. I've got an X and Y pixel location, I've got a longitude and latitude, I've got a color associated with the pin, and a label. Here's the label pin 1. So I can just double click in this field, and maybe I change that to STN1 because it's station 1, just as an example. At any time, I can highlight a pin in the manager here, click this edit tool, and get back to the same window we saw when we created it. So that's an alternative way to modify it. There are other tools here for importing and exporting pins. There's a trash can to delete pins. And so, you know, a typical use case might be that you have a half a dozen locations you want to be able to manipulate in your image. You can simply bang them in manually with this creation tool. Now, if you have dozens and dozens of pin locations, that may get a little tedious, and there are ways to import pin files. However, they are in special XML file format that can be a little difficult to create. It's a pretty wordy text file, not as simple as a comma-separated variable file. But for now, we're just going to use the pin manager itself to create and delete pins. So once I have a pin in there, what I will notice is that in the file manager, I have pins in the vector folder of the file, and if I open that, I can see its sort of geometric representation as a point. And in the layer manager, we can also see that there are pins there. I can edit those and control some of the visual information of the pin. And in the mask manager, it's got its own mask, because you might use that in some sort of logical or mathematical expression in a math band expression for creating new masks in some way. Okay. Returning to this layer manager, edit that. If I change the let's zoom in a little bit more on this. Well, that's right. If I can change the shape of the pin icon, if you will, from a push pin style to a simple circle. Notice the circle appears at the pin location, whereas the end of the push pin used to. That ghost of the push pin is a sort of a bug and an artifact, and it won't appear in your final image. I can set the stroke width, which is the outline of the symbol that I'm putting there. Let's set that to 2, and when we tab out of that, we've created a white stroke around the pin, and it's colored white, so the stroke color is here, and the fill color is here. So if I change that to something like a bright red, these are RGB values from 0 to 255, now my pin location is colored red. Okay, so it's pretty simple to edit the appearance, the label, the and location of pins in using this pin manager. Now you can keep this pin manager window here if you are doing a lot of location work, but you can kind of reclaim that space either by right-clicking its title bar and floating it again, or you can simply close it and it will drop that out, and you can retrieve it again from this menu or this tool here. So that's just a quick overview of the pin manager as one of the extra managers that SeaDAS offers.